I'd like to have you all, both members of the board and of the public, keep in mind one important fact, which I think has perhaps gotten a little lost in the interest in this particular application, and that is that the zone change area is not adjacent to the Farmington River. In fact, it is nowhere near the Farmington River. It is approximately 500 feet at the very closest point to the Farmington River.
I am also quite pleased and excited about that river. That river is absolutely gorgeous. Nothing I do here will interfere with the river. Like that I've done, and they are typically called industrial park, and look at them and see if you probably have them for a neighbor. The most important, as the town only has about 50 acres of undeveloped land zoned for business and approximately 4,500 acres of undeveloped residential land. That's 1% of the available land is available for businesses. Managing the business to residential tax proportion will be key to keeping the town's tax rate competitive and keeping Canton as a desired place to live and run a business. These are not my words, these are your words if you want Canton to be a great place to live and run a business. I was encouraged by this because this is your plan. So the buildings I'm anticipating are going to be relatively small. The driveway here I'm installing is a 700-foot long driveway. It comes out to Route 44. I was questioned about, once you buy this land, or once you have a zone change, Mr. Borghese, we're very concerned that you're going to put a big box retail, Home Depot type building on there. If I put retail in there, I have to go back to the commission. I have to have a demonstrated need through a special exception process that says I have to get a permit to do it. And a lot of the requirements on getting that would be literally impossible to do. And so I'm going to tell you that that cannot happen. This entire residential subdivision right across the street from MBI has been constructed since I started the park. When I went to talk to the neighbors about how they felt in the park, I started down here. This is Pepper Street. These neighbors are directly affected by fuel cell that's here. And I went down to Pepper Street, walked across here, came down here, talked to neighbors across the street and the neighbors on this side of the street. And then I went to the back road, and by the way, since the park was developed, this has been developed, that road has been developed, there's a very large home here that was developed, all with the park in place. Here on Mohawk, that they would rather have the industrial development with this conservation buffer than this development. Some of the other positives to this will consist of basically 6 wells or 6 septic systems that may not be any larger than a residential septic system. This will require 22 septic systems and wells. This will be a controlled development. This will be a residential development with less controls. Last but not least, there's jobs here, there's no jobs here. Next. Examples of buildings that I could build, and most of these buildings I've built.
Rezoning this from now till who knows when. The buildings you build now aren't going to be there forever. You know, they're going to be there for whatever their useful life is, and then from there, it's going to move on to its next life. We're still zoning this for that next life, and what that's going to be, and that's going to affect those adjacent property owners as well. So, what's your answer to that?
I almost wonder if I could, for one day, 1 hour, transfer ownership of this land to the town of Canton. The town passes this kind of a restriction, sells it back to me for $1 again, and now that holds up because you own the land during that period of time. Are you ready to kill me yet? Or something, because I am willing to do that, but it doesn't do you any good if I don't do it and it holds on, doesn't hold on. I would love to join you, coming up with ideas from your town council, something we could do to help you on that. Because I really intend to do what I say here, and I'll stand up, you have in your regulations a lot of controls on the business use, and you have very little controls on the residential use.
Okay. But judging by the letters is that people are scared of pollution. They mourn the loss potentially of an iconic farm view in the area that is your property, but it is a critical character of the district, and they love it. And they are not here because they hate you, they're here because they love that land and that view. It is the best view on Route 44 of an agricultural site because it's elevated and you can see down into it. And we have a duty to provide reasonable consideration of that character.
The gentleman that's using it right now is using it basically for free. I believe I charge him $100 a year. And obviously, if I just terminate my lease with him, that won't continue to happen, and that will just naturally vegetate.
Understanding of opportunity sites was, this was a site that had beautiful agricultural land. It had what we believe to be an abandoned gravel pit on it, and it had some erratic topography from its former use. The thought was that it was an opportunity because perhaps something could be figured out that would allow the premises to serve a variety of purposes that would be tolerable and actually endorsed and liked by local residents. We have a district that would permit you to more closely bind what you do. It's the design district. What was the reason that you did not apply under the design district if you are willing to encumber the property in a manner that is basically a master plan, which is exactly what is contemplated in a design district?
And the one thing that I cannot tolerate in the controls of the town in a design district would be that they wanted to look at the finishes of the building. Let's say they wanted all the buildings to look like a house with wood siding and shingle roofs or slate roofs or something, because the size building we're talking about here cannot be economically constructed in that manner. I would be very happy to consider, and review with your people, a design district where the approval process is simple, and when a customer, who is my boss, the customer is my boss, wants a building in short order, I can turn around the approval process quickly, get it approved, and it is using standard good materials that will last. But I have to go beyond that and not face committees and decisions of people that have opinions on this, and we get nowhere, because then it will be the failure that some people are telling me I'm going to have here. If your staff and myself could sit down and come up with a list of parameters that's reasonable for both of us, and it could be successful for both of us, I'd be very happy to work with you.
Rezoning would result in environmental degradation to the Farmington River. It would decrease water quality. It would degrade biological condition. It would increase in-stream temperatures, which is really bad for the life of the river. It would increase erosion and sedimentation, and it would increase flooding potential despite the best development practices.
It cannot come into our town and destroy not only our land, but also harm the river to line pockets with thousands, if not millions of dollars by obliterating this natural resource, the ridge and the surrounding land. As I am coming to understand what is happening, nothing will be built on this land for years to come as he slowly tears down and clears all the sand and the gravel from this esker, an ancient landform left behind as the glaciers receded from this area thousands of years ago. This will entail years and years of huge dump trucks slowly carrying the sand and gravel away. Not a pretty sight.
Mr. Borghese used one point out of the POCD, the fact that this area was cited as a potential development opportunity, but I believe very strongly and respect the work that went into this POCD, which I have read numerous times through, that there is more in the POCD that is inconsistent with this proposed zone change than is consistent. And
Well, what was presented here tonight is not what is best for Canton. Okay? I offer a unique perspective because I just moved here a year ago. All right? I could have moved anywhere I wanted. I chose this town. I chose this town probably for the same reason that all of you chose to live here. I grew up in a town where when I was a kid, I had fields and trees and everything that you have here. And because of plans like this, it's gone. That town that I loved as a kid is gone. Once you go down this road, it can't be undone. You'll never change it. You can't say, sorry, we made a mistake, let's change it. It's done.
Fly fishing and tourism it can have for our local community. DEP here estimates that 30,000 to 35,000 trips to the Farmington River every year from people outside our community come to the Farmington River, and they provide money to our local economy. And it also makes reference to the lack of overnight stay on the Route 44 corridor for these fly fishermen. That's an avenue the town can pursue for economic development rather than an industrial park that has the potential, whether it be small or not, has the potential to destroy a natural gem that we have a responsibility to preserve.
Mr. Borghese, as he stated in his testimony earlier this evening, indicated that the Torrington development that he so is proud of, and perhaps should be, was in fact in place before any residential development was done there. Therefore, there would be no impact on a residential property value since the industrial site was already established and in working shape at the time that residences were then built. Those residences would have been built with that in mind and property values established with that in mind as well. So there would not have been any impact from his, in fact, industrial site on the property values, where in contrast, there will be a significant impact should this zoning change be agreed to.
Development in the proposed location should be viewed as detrimental to the river and its significant values. Employing the best management practices, such as using vegetative buffers, minimizing impervious surfaces, etc., to control stormwater runoff, and following the Canton's protection overlay district, can at best only minimize the impact of this action to the river, its ecology, and the wildlife habitats.
But more than the crest of the hill. So all of the other roads, whether it's Indian Hill or Thompson Hill or Mohawk, all deal with that. If you've ever tried to get out of those roads at 7:30 in the morning, it is almost impossible because of the traffic today. What I'm very concerned about is that by zoning this industrial now, you're going to increase the traffic flow significantly because of the traffic in and out of an industrial park, and in the ensuing period when it's being constructed, the truck traffic. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the other question that I have is our property values. Now, we've had our specialists, 27%. If our property values go down 27%, is our assessment going down 27%? That's the question. Because we've got 150 houses in the area that are going to get affected by the devaluation. The question is, 150 houses been there. I've been there for 36 years, we pay an average of $6,000 a year in taxes. So you're getting a $250,000 tax dues from the industrial park. You're going to lose $1 million worth of tax revenue if the assessment goes down. That's all I have to say.